right, Sandra, let's bring in retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who is National Security Advisor under Vice President Mike Pence, and a Fox News contributor, and former Pennsylvania Congressman Patrick Murphy, former Undersecretary of the Army and an Iraq War veteran. Let me read from the U.S. Attorney Breon Peace's press release on all of this. He said, this prosecution reveals the Chinese government's flagrant violation of our nation's sovereignty by establishing a secret police station in the middle of New York City. That phrase there, flagrant violation of our nation's sovereignty. We've seen this movie before, Keith.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. Look, this is amazing. It's brazen, pretty clearly. It's been going on before. It's been going on in the past as well.
There was a big balloon floating over.
And then you saw what happened with the balloon. And it was so frustrating to me is there's been no accountability of what has happened at any of this. And they talk about, you know, the assault on our sovereignty. Look what they did with the balloon. And we don't have a plan to counter any of this. And what I mean by a plan is, okay, how are you going to address what China has done, both economically, militarily, diplomatically? And we haven't done it. You go back to what happened at the end of World War II, when you had the Truman Doctrine and we had containment of the Soviet Union. That was a plan to address China. And they just keep pushing, because they get away with it. And there's no plan to push back on it.
You know, Patrick, you can arrest people, you can charge in absentia these 34 members of the Chinese National Police who will never see the inside of a U.S. courtroom. But does the Biden administration need to do more to tell Xi Jinping, hey, stop all this stuff? Now, this police station was closed down in the fall of last year after the Chinese got wind that there was an investigation. But in terms of flagrant violations of U.S. sovereignty, they're doing this every day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a violation when it was the spy balloon. Yeah. It's a violation here at the secret police station that's been shut down. And it's a violation, frankly, with what they're doing, some believe, in TikTok, where they think it's a Trojan horse for the next generation to get data right now. We need to do more as a country. I think we have done a lot recently, but we need to do a whole heck of a lot more. And it's sending a message, and it's getting our allies as well, John, to send a message. And I think that's the undercurrent of what's going on right now at the G7. When you have 6 of our allies there in Japan getting ready for the big G7 summit. And the main topic is how do you counterbalance China? And what we need to do to put pressure on them to knock it off. Because, by the way, they're not just doing it here in the United States, as you know, General and John. They're doing it in other countries across this world.
Yeah, I mean, they've got eyes on everybody. So there are threats from without, and then there are threats from within. We had this guy, Jack Teixeira, who was sharing all of this top secret SCI intelligence on the internet. And now we also have Sarah Bills, who is a former non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Navy, being part of this, allegedly, Donbass Devushka social media network that was reposting a lot of this stuff, which really brings to mind 2 questions I have. First of all, how does a 21-year-old member of the Air National Guard in Massachusetts get TSSCI clearance? And do we need to do a better job of vetting the people who are bringing in the military and giving this stuff to?
Yeah, the answer is yes and yes. I mean, there are just too many clearances out there. And I think we really need to ramp that back on and who has the clearances. And especially, it's just not an age issue. It's the need to know. Do you have the need to know to do it? Here's what the American people have to realize. That when you do something like this and you potentially injure sources and methods on who's actually getting that information or how you get it, it's those young men and women who are getting in the middle of the night, getting on a black helicopter to conduct a raid somewhere, that are dependent on good intelligence, that maybe the bad guys now has picked up that intelligence and react to that. I've seen that actually happen. When we went after Soleimani, that was because of really good, exquisite intelligence that we had on the ground to do something like that. So I'm reaching a point now where we're saying, you know, maybe we just have too many people with too many clearances. We need to ramp back on that. But the genie's out of the bottle. This is going to take a long time to ramp back on this. And the problem we also have is that right now, 75% of the military is under the age of 30 and younger. They're used to doing these on-game things. They're used to this, like learning online or playing games online. And they think it's more of a game. It's not a game. It's serious business, and it's life and death business.
You both had, and maybe continue to have, TSSCI clearance. When you take a look at the vast net of people who have this, do we need to draw in the purse strings a little bit?
We do. There's 3 million folks with clearances right now.
3 million?
3 million. So to the general's point, I agree with him 100% on this. We need to make sure we know who has clearances, why they need it, and to get rid of it. The broader problem, we classify way too much information. Now, not this information that Jack shared, this young airmen in Massachusetts. But there's other information that's classified that shouldn't be classified, that they can get off the internet. So there is a macro problem that we need to dive into, probably in the legislative and executive branches that they really get after it. But to this point of this young airman who gave some secrets, top secret clearance, some things that were very sensitive to our allies like South Korea, he needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law under the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
I'm sure he will be. Others may not, but I'm sure he will
should be.
Yeah.
That's right.
Keith, Patrick, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Sandra?